The crystalline corridors of Nexus Prime hummed with tension as delegates from 12 star systems prepared for the most important peace summit in galactic history. Ambassador Elena Vasquez adjusted her ceremonial robes, the deep blue fabric, complementing her violet skin and the elegant silver markings that traced along her neck and arms. As a Celestian diplomat, she carried the hopes of her entire species on her shoulders. An unexpected assignment, your new protection detail has arrived, announced Ambassador Thorne, the station's elderly human coordinator. His weathered face showed concern as he gestured toward the corridor. I must warn you, the Council insisted on human security for political reasons. Elena's luminous purple eyes narrowed with displeasure. Her species stood nearly 7 feet tall, possessed natural psychic abilities, and had evolved from apex predators. The idea of needing protection from any humans seemed absurd, let alone politically motivated protection. The small guardian David Cross entered the chamber with quiet confidence, his compact 5'9" frame seeming insignificant beside the towering alien delegates. His dark hair was cropped short in military fashion. His brown eyes held a calm intensity that Elena immediately dismissed as human bravado. The simple black tactical suit he wore looked almost ceremonial compared to the advanced armor worn by other species guards. You cannot be serious, Elena said, her melodic voice carrying the harmonic undertones that made Celestian speech so distinctive. This human is barely larger than a child by our standards. How can he possibly protect me from species that average 8 feet in height and possess natural weapons? David's expression remained neutral, though Elena caught a slight tightening around his eyes. Ma'am, I've reviewed the threat assessments. Size becomes irrelevant when facing coordinated attacks from multiple species with different combat styles. Hidden fires, something in his calm tone sparked an unexpected reaction in Elena. She had dealt with countless human diplomats who either cowered before her species' natural presence or overcompensated with false bravado. David showed neither reaction, instead maintaining a professional demeanor that somehow made her pulse quicken. You speak confidently for someone whose species only recently achieved interstellar travel, she said, moving closer to study him. The movement caused her robes to shift, revealing more of the intricate silver patterns that adorned her skin. What makes you think human tactics can succeed where Celestian strength might fail? David's gaze remained fixed on her face, though she noticed his breathing change slightly when she moved closer. Because humans learned to survive by adapting to threats we couldn't overpower. We developed tactics that work regardless of size or strength advantages. The growing Elena found herself intrigued despite her initial dismissal. There was something magnetic about his quiet confidence. The way he seemed completely unimpressed by her physical advantages or royal status. Most beings either feared her psychic abilities or tried to curry favor with her diplomatic position. David treated her like an equal, which was both refreshing and strangely arousing. Show me, she said impulsively, her voice dropping to a more intimate register. Demonstrate these human tactics you claim are so effective. The training room adjacent to her quarters provided ample space for combat demonstrations. Elena watched with growing interest as David moved through defensive scenarios, his movements fluid and precise. When she activated the room's holographic, opponents programmed to match various alien combat styles. David's performance exceeded her expectations. Unexpected attraction, his tactical awareness impressed her. But it was the way his body moved that captured her attention. Humans possessed a grace that her larger species lacked. And David's compact frame displayed surprising power and agility. When he removed his jacket after the demonstration, revealing the fitted shirt beneath, Elena felt an unfamiliar warmth spreading through her body. Adequate, she said, though her voice betrayed her growing interest. Perhaps you are not entirely unsuited for this assignment. David's slight smile suggested he had noticed her change in tone. Thank you, ma'am. I'll do my best to meet your expectations. Dangerous games that evening as Elena prepared for the next day's negotiations. She found herself thinking about her human protector in ways that had nothing to do with security. Celestian biology meant that attraction developed differently than in many species. Once interested, their bodies began producing pheromones that enhanced sensitivity and desire. creating a feedback loop that could become overwhelming. When David arrived for their evening security briefing, Alina noticed his nostrils flare slightly as he approached. Human senses might be limited compared to most alien species, but they were apparently sensitive enough to detect Celestian arousal pheromones. "Is everything all right, ma'am?" he asked, his professional composure wavering slightly. "The negotiations tomorrow will be tense," she said, moving to the window overlooking the station's docking bays. 12 species with territorial disputes, each convinced they deserve better terms than their neighbors. David joined her at the window, standing closer than strictly necessary for professional conversation. Alina could feel the heat radiating from his human body, so much warmer than her own species' normal temperature. "The first touch, you seem confident about tomorrow's security arrangements," she said, turning to face him. The movement brought them even closer together, close enough that she could see the way his pupils dilated in response to her proximity. "I've studied each delegate species' combat preferences," David replied, his voice slightly husky. "But I'm more concerned about protecting you specifically." "Why specifically me?" Alina asked, though she already suspected the answer. The attraction was clearly mutual, despite the significant biological and cultural differences between their species. "Because," David said softly, reaching up to trace one of the silver patterns along her neck with his fingertip, "you're the most important person in this room." Alina's breath caught as his touch sent electric sensations through her nervous system. Celestian's skin was highly sensitive to contact, especially along the decorative markings that indicated maturity and social status. David's gentle touch activated pleasure, centers that she had never experienced with members of her own species. "Breaking barriers, this is highly irregular," she whispered, though she made no move to step away. Diplomatic protocol forbids personal relationships between principals and their protection details. "Then it's fortunate that I'm just a humble human bodyguard," David murmured, his hand moving to cup her face. "Not important enough for protocols to matter." Alina laughed softly, the sound carrying harmonic undertones that made David's eyes widen with appreciation. "You are far from humble, David Cross, and definitely not unimportant." Their first kiss bridged the gap between two completely different species. Human warmth meeting Celestian coolness in a combination that surprised them both with its intensity. Alina's psychic abilities, normally carefully controlled, responded to the emotional connection by creating a feedback loop of shared sensation that left them both breathless. Dangerous desires, when they finally separated, Alina's luminous eyes had darkened with desire, and David's usually controlled demeanor showed cracks of passionate intensity. "This complicates things," Alina said, though her hands remained on his shoulders. "Everything worth having is complicated," David replied, pressing his forehead against hers. "The question is whether you think it's worth the risk." Alina's answer came in the form of another kiss, deeper and more demanding than the first. Her enhanced senses allowed her to perceive his emotional state directly, feeling his desire and determination in ways that transcended normal communication. The night before, as the evening progressed, their professional relationship transformed into something far more intimate and dangerous. Alina discovered that human touch could activate pleasure responses she had never experienced, while David learned that Celestian physiology offered sensations beyond anything he had imagined possible. "Tomorrow will bring challenges," Alina said, as they lay together in her private chambers, her violet skin contrasting beautifully with his human tones. "Let tomorrow worry about itself," David replied, tracing the intricate patterns along her arms with reverent touches. "Tonight, we have each other." But even as they lost themselves in passion, both knew that the morning would bring tests that could destroy everything they had found together. The peace negotiations would determine the fate of 12 star systems, and Alina's enemies would stop at nothing to prevent her from succeeding. The small human bodyguard that everyone had mocked would soon prove that size meant nothing, protecting what mattered most. And Alina would discover that sometimes the greatest strength came in the smallest packages, wrapped in quiet confidence and unexpected tenderness. The morning stormed on, came too quickly to Nexus Prime. Artificial light cycles marking the beginning of what would become the most dangerous day in recent galactic history. Alina woke in David's arms, her violet skin still flushed from their night of passion. The intricate silver markings along her body seemed to glow with residual energy from their intimate connection. "I can sense them," she whispered against his chest, her psychic abilities picking up hostile intentions throughout the station. At least 12 individuals with murderous intent, all focused on today's negotiations. David's arms tightened around her protectively. "How many species?" "All of them," Elena replied, her voice carrying undertones of fear. "Every delegate represents not just their government's position, but also those who would rather see the peace talks fail completely." Preparation and desires they prepared for the day's events, Elena found herself watching David with new appreciation. His movements were economical and precise as he checked his equipment, but she could see the coiled tension in his muscles. The compact human body that others dismissed held power and grace that made her pulse race. "You're staring," David observed with a slight smile, adjusting the fitted tactical vest that emphasized his lean physique. "I'm appreciating," Elena corrected, moving closer to help him with the equipment. Her hands lingered on his chest longer than necessary. "I find myself wondering how I ever thought you were inadequate." David caught her hands, bringing them to his lips to kiss her fingertips. "Last night was incredible, Elena, but today I need you to trust me completely. Some of the things I might have to do will seem impossible." The diplomatic theater, the grand negotiation chamber, had been transformed into an arena of political tension. Representatives from 12 star systems took their positions around the circular table, each delegate accompanied by their own security details. Elena noticed how the other guards were positioned for protection, while David had positioned himself for a maximum tactical response. "Ladies, gentlemen, and esteemed beings," began Ambassador Thorne, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Today we address territorial disputes that have plagued our sectors for generations." Elena activated the central holographic display, her graceful movements drawing appreciative glances from several delegates. She wore formal diplomatic robes that accentuated her tall, elegant frame. But David's eyes held a different kind of appreciation born from intimate knowledge. The first strike, the proposed mining rights in the Andorian belt, require careful consideration. Elena began, her melodic voice filling the chamber. "Each species has legitimate claims that must be balanced against collective needs." The Krillian delegate, a massive reptilian being with natural armor plating, shifted in his chair. Elena's psychic senses immediately picked up the change in his emotional state, from diplomatic interest to predatory focus. "Indeed," the Krillian rumbled, his clawed hand moving toward his ceremonial sash. "Some considerations require more direct approaches." The attack came with shocking speed. The Krillian's ceremonial sash concealed monomolecular wire that he whipped toward Elena's throat with deadly precision. Simultaneously, the Vorthan delegate activated hidden sonic weapons, while the crystalline Xerians began projecting, cutting beams from their naturally faceted bodies. Human lightning. David moved before Elena's enhanced senses could fully process the threat. His compact frame exploded into motion with a speed that defied the other delegates' expectations. The monomolecular wire that should have decapitated Elena instead met David's armored forearm guards, specifically designed to counter such weapons. But it was his counterattack that truly shocked the chamber. Rather than retreat or call for help, David advanced directly into the coordinated assault. His tactical awareness allowed him to process multiple simultaneous threats and respond with integrated defensive measures that no single alien combatant had anticipated. The dance of Combatalina watched in amazement as David systematically dismantled the assassination attempt. The Krillian's size advantage meant nothing when David used the alien's own momentum against him, redirecting the massive being's charge into the chamber's reinforced walls with devastating effect. The Vorthan sonic weapons, designed to incapacitate through acoustic assault, failed against David's helmet systems. More importantly, David had studied Vorthan physiology and knew their hearing was even more sensitive than their weapons. His return volley of flashbang grenades left the delegate writhing in acoustic agony. "Protecting what matters, stay behind." "Me," David commanded Elena, though his voice carried none of the breathless strain she would have expected. Instead, he sounded completely focused. As if dismantling multiple assassination attempts was routine work, Alina found herself aroused by his competence, as much as she had been by his tenderness the night before, watching him fight for her life. With such skill and determination, awakened desires that had nothing to do with political necessity and everything to do with primal attraction to a worthy mate. Impossible odds the remaining delegates had abandoned any pretense of diplomacy. 8 different species launched coordinated attacks, designed to overwhelm any single defender through sheer diversity of threat types. Energy weapons, projectile systems, biological toxins, psychic assaults, and exotic technologies created a killing field that should have been impossible for one person to survive. David didn't just survive, he thrived. His tactical computer processed attack vectors, while his enhanced reflexes responded faster than alien. Nervous systems could compensate, but more than that, his human creativity allowed him to turn the chamber's diplomatic features into tactical advantages. Creative destruction when the massive Gorvion delegate tried to crush him with gravity-manipulating abilities. David used the chamber's emergency systems to create a localized decompression that sent the alien tumbling through space. When the ethereal phase shifter attempted to attack from an impossible angle, David's thrown combat knife found its target through pure physics and trajectory calculation. Alina watched her human protectors systematically defeat beings that her own species would have struggled to handle individually, and she felt a surge of desire that had nothing to do with gratitude and everything to do with witnessing true excellence in action. Intimate combat behind you, Alina called out as the Shadowkin delegate attempted to strike from David's blind spot. But David had already sensed the attack, spinning to catch the alien's weapon hand in a grip that applied pressure to nerve. Clusters humans shouldn't have known existed. Their eyes met across the chaotic battlefield, and Alina felt the psychic connection they had forged the night before flare with shared adrenaline and mutual protection instincts. The bond between them had transcended mere physical attraction to become something deeper and more powerful. Final moments, the last 3. Assassins coordinated their final assault, accepting that they would likely die in the attempt, but determined to complete their mission. Alina felt their murderous intent through her psychic abilities and knew that even David's remarkable skills might not be enough. That was when she made her choice, drawing on abilities she rarely used in diplomatic settings. Alina projected a psychic barrier that confused the alien's targeting systems, while simultaneously sharing her enhanced senses with David through their intimate connection. The combination of human tactical adaptability and Celestian psychic enhancement created a partnership that transcended what either species could achieve alone. Victory and desire when the last assassin fell. The chamber fell silent except for the sound of their breathing. David stood over the fallen delegates, his compact frame somehow seeming larger and more imposing than the massive aliens he had defeated. Alina felt a surge of pride and desire that made her skin flush deeper, violet. "You hurt?" David asked, moving to her side with swift efficiency. "No," Alina replied, her voice husky with emotions that had nothing to do with fear. "But I find myself in desperate need of privacy with my protector." The heat in her luminous eyes made David's breath catch. The adrenaline of combat combined with the intimacy of their psychic connection during the fight had awakened desires that demanded immediate attention. The aftermath security teams flooded the diplomatic chamber within minutes, but Alina and David barely noticed. Ambassador Thorne coordinated the cleanup, while medical teams attended to the few surviving assassins. But the two lovers only had eyes for each other. "Your quarters," Alina said, her voice carrying harmonics that made several nearby humans turn in confusion. Celestian vocal patterns could be powerfully affecting when charged with emotion. Now, David needed no further encouragement. They moved through the corridors with purpose, Elena's diplomatic status clearing their path, while David's tactical awareness ensured no remaining threats could approach undetected private celebration. Elena's private chambers had been prepared for a diplomatic reception that would never happen. Instead, they became the setting for a celebration of survival, skill, and deepening love between two beings who had found something extraordinary in each other. You were magnificent, Elena breathed as the door sealed behind them. Her hands were already working at David's tactical vest, desperate to feel the skin beneath. I have never seen anything like what you did in that chamber. I was protecting what matters most to me, David replied, his own hands tracing the intricate silver patterns along her neck and shoulders. You matter more than political treaties or diplomatic protocols, Celestian, passion Elena's species possessed. Heightened emotional and physical responses that made human passion seem restrained by comparison. As her arousal built, the silver markings along her body began to glow with soft bioluminescence, creating patterns of light that danced across her violet skin. This is how my people show desire, she explained as David stared in wonder at the display. The patterns indicate not just attraction, but recognition of a worthy mate. David's response was to trace the glowing markings with his tongue, discovering that they were even more sensitive than normal Celestian skin. Elena's reaction was immediate and intense, her back arching as sensations beyond human understanding flooded through her nervous system. Human innovation where Celestian lovers relied on psychic connection and shared sensation, David brought human creativity and adaptability to their intimacy. His hands and mouth explored her alien physiology with the same tactical awareness he had shown in combat, learning what brought her pleasure and adapting his approach accordingly. Your species is endlessly surprising, Elena gasped as David discovered that the base of her neck markings were particularly responsive to gentle pressure.
No wonder you survived
When larger, stronger beings failed.
when
We adapt, David murmured. Against her glowing skin, we find ways to succeed that others never consider. Psychic unities, their passion intensified. Elena's psychic abilities created a feedback loop that allowed them to experience each other's sensations directly. David found himself overwhelmed by the intensity of Celestian physical responses, while Elena experienced the focused determination and protective instincts that drove human passion. I can feel what you feel, Elena whispered, her luminous eyes wide with wonder. Your thoughts, your emotions, your desire for me. Then you know that this isn't just physical, David replied, his hands cupping her face with infinite tenderness. You know that I love you. The bond what followed transcended mere physical intimacy. The psychic connection between them deepened. With each shared breath, each whispered endearment, each moment of perfect unity. Elena's glowing markings pulsed in rhythm with David's heartbeat, while his human warmth seemed to kindle new fires within her alien physiology. They moved together, with the same coordination they had shown during the attack, each anticipating the other's needs and responses. David's compact strength proved perfectly suited to Elena's tall, elegant frame, while her psychic abilities allowed her to enhance his pleasure in ways no human lover ever could. Declarations I love you, Elena said as they lay entwined afterward, her skin still glowing with residual passion. Not because you've saved my life, but because of who you are. Your courage, your skill, your refusal to be intimidated by what others consider limitations. I love you too, David replied, pressing gentle kisses to the patterns along her shoulders. Your strength, your intelligence, your willingness to look beyond species barriers to see what we could be together. Political consequences. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication from Ambassador Thorne. Lena activated the viewer with reluctance, not wanting to break the intimate bubble they had created. Ambassador Vasquez, Thorne's image appeared, his weathered face showing satisfaction. The assassination attempt has created exactly the diplomatic crisis we hoped for. The surviving delegates are demanding justice, and the species who sent assassins are now isolated politically. What does this mean for the peace negotiations? Lena asked, though she was more focused on David's hands continuing to trace her. Skin. Complete success, Thorne smiled. The moderate factions from all 12 species are horrified by the violation of diplomatic immunity. They're prepared to sign agreements that would have taken months to negotiate under normal circumstances. Future plans. After the communication ended, Lena and David lay in comfortable silence, processing the implications of both the political success and their personal connection. What happens now? David asked. Between us, I mean. Diplomatic protocols, species differences, the fact that we're from completely different worlds. Alina turned in his arms, her luminous eyes serious. My people believe that true compatibility transcends physical differences. What we have is rare, David. It would be foolish to abandon it for political convenience. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying that when these negotiations conclude, I want you to come with me to Celesta Prime. Meet my family, see my world, discover if what we have can survive outside of crisis conditions. The promise David's answer came in the form of a kiss that conveyed everything words couldn't express. When they separated, Elena's skin was glowing brighter than ever, patterns forming complex designs that spoke of deep emotional connection and future possibilities. Besides, Elena added with a smile that carried hints of mischief, my people will be fascinated to meet the small human who defeated 12 alien assassins to protect their princess. Princess? David raised an eyebrow. Did I forget to mention that part? Elena laughed, the harmonics making David's pulse race again. The daughter of the Celestian High Council's chairman is technically royalty. I hope that doesn't complicate things. David's grin suggested that complications were something he was well equipped to handle. After all, he had just proven that size meant nothing when it came to protecting what mattered most. Epilogue: 6 months later, the peace treaties signed. At Nexus Prime had brought unprecedented stability to 12 star systems. Elena had been promoted to senior ambassador, while David had gained galactic recognition as a tactical specialist whose methods were studied by military academies across known space. More importantly, their relationship had not only survived the transition to normal life, but had grown stronger. Elena's family had welcomed David with the same warmth they would show any worthy mate.
Oh.
While David had adapted to Celestian culture with his characteristic determination and creativity, still think I'm too small to be your protector? David asked one evening as they watched the sunset from Elena's family estate on Celesta Prime.
No.
Elena replied, her hand finding his as her skin began its familiar glow. I think you're exactly the right size to be my everything. Our love had proven that the greatest strength often came in unexpected packages, and that when two beings truly connected, no force in the galaxy could tear them apart. The end.